Yes,
or the issue is non-utilization of IFMIS?
Yes, it is in doubt because we expect that all information should come from the ledger, which is the summary of all the transactions. So if the figures do not come from the ledger, then the source of those figures is in doubt.
But you would still not take the figure in the ledger without confirming with the supporting documentation.
No, the figures in the ledger must be supported.
So what is the primary source of truth?
Is the IFMIS ledger.
No, the IFMIS ledger, does it have the payment vouchers? Because if you say we spent 1 million, you must see expenditure returns for that 1 million, isn't it?
Yes.
So the expenditure returns is the primary source of truth.
Yes. It is the primary source, but what I'm saying, Chair, is that all transactions must be recorded in the ledger, which is IFMIS.
Okay, I'm bringing in the members, and Senator Cherargei, you will remember that in Nandi, we had a different situation where the financial statement, supporting schedule, and IFMIS were all different. Yeah, so that's why I'm trying to establish where the point of convergence. And you're saying here, the point of convergence is a financial statement and supporting schedules. But IFMIS has got different figures. Fine. Let's allow Senator Mtata to go on, then we get feedback from us.
Honorable Chair and honorable members of the Senate, Your Excellency, Governor from Narok, and your delegation, my name is Okio Mtakwiti, Senator from Busia and a member of this committee. You are most welcome.
Thank you, Senator Sifuna.
Governor, if I'm not correct, this letter of yours is dated the 4th of March 2024, this year. Right. Now, if I were to ask, why would you be writing that letter way after the invitation to the committee? Because the resolution to have this meeting, Chair, if you look at the chronology of events, this meeting had been scheduled for October of 2023. Governor, why writing this letter in response or in anticipation of appearance before this committee so you can have something to say?
Chair, that is not true. When I came in as the governor, we realized that there was this problem with IFMIS and our financial statement. And the Department of Finance told me that they have been grappling with this problem even with the former governor. And I have asked them whether they have ever written a letter to Treasury to come and rectify this problem. They said, I can, at least for me, they cannot find any letter written to Treasury. That's why I decided now to put it on record. Because I was coming here, it is an issue that if you ask many counties, and they will come before you, there is a problem with IFMIS, with our...
Governor, I think the question was the timing of the letter and whether it was just meant to hoodwink the Senate, because this letter is dated 4th of March. If our earlier proceedings would not have been postponed, then there would be no letter. Because remember, you were supposed to appear before this committee perhaps a month or so ago. So a month or so back, this letter had not been created. And you know, this is where members sometimes, as we had discussed earlier, we must put the CC on the line. Why he chose to do this letter on 4th of March and not in August when he took over office. Because we are not just going to accept ticking of boxes for purposes of pleasing the Senate. I think that was a question as to whether the date and timing of this letter is meant to hoodwink the Senate. I think it would be very difficult for us to arrive at a different conclusion. Senator Sifuna, had you concluded?
Yeah. Just finally, Governor, was this letter ever responded to?
No, it was never responded. And we tried. You know, I remember even asking the CC to call Treasury. I wish if they are here today so that they can tell us why they have not responded to our letters.
Senator Ledama.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I don't know whether I'm the only one who can see this, but from the reading of the query from the Auditor General and the response by the Governor and the additional comments by the Auditor General, the Governor has not answered the questions because the question is very clear. It says, no reconciliations have been provided to account for the difference. So that is issue number one. In responding to this query, the Governor should have provided that reconciliation to attempt to answer this. Number two, the Auditor General has said no supporting documents were provided for audit review to explain the nature or justification of the adjustments. If you read the response by the Governor introduces something completely different, which he was not asked. The Governor was not asked to say, why is there a variance? He was asked to provide the documents to the auditors so that the auditors can be able to try and figure out why the variance is there. So, in my view, Mr. Chairman, this question has not been answered, and the Governor ought to answer the question as asked. Where are the supportive documents so that the auditors can be able to review, to explain the nature of the justification of the adjustments that were made? That is the issue, and that has not been answered.
Excuse me. That is on the second leg of the question.
In fact, if you read the first one, the query is very clear. Because I mean, it's an extended, it's a long one. It starts a comparison, it shows a comparison. Some of them we were able to note when we were going through the financial statements earlier on, seeing the difference, like the road maintenance and all that stuff. Now, when you come to the conclusion of the auditor is very clear. The auditor says, no reconciliations have been provided to account for the difference. All you need to do there is to provide the reconciliation. That is issue number one. Number two, further, the statement of assets and liability reflect a balance of 37 million described as prior year adjustments. However, no supporting documents were provided for audit review to explain the nature of the justification of the adjustments. That's all we needed to see in those two queries.
Okay.
Auditor.
Yeah, so I think we'll come back to the second part of the prior year adjustment, because in the Governor's response, there's a reference to note 25, which I've looked at, and the numbers do not seem to tie with what is there. So, Governor, take note of that. Let's get Senator Onyonka.
Chair, I'm not sure whether Dr. Munywa is here.
We had apologies from him last week. I believe that he's still dealing with the same matter.
Yes, Chair. He sent apologies as well today.
Oh, yeah, he had a medical.
Okay, the reason why I'm talking about Munywa, and maybe we could talk to control of budget. I think I saw her here.
Yes, Nancy is here.
Nancy. Is it possible, Nancy, that if you look at these variances and the blame is being put on IFMIS, I would like Chair for Nancy to tell me whether this has been the experiences they have had when you had variances between what is being spent on the ground and what actually what is in the IFMIS system and Treasury and the central bank, whether this is a realistic interpretation of what the Governor is saying, or is there much more than meets the eye? When you link, Chair, I'm just trying to link these things with this thing of avoiding payments through IFMIS system. All these things have come to discover, Chair, they're all linked up. So I want somebody to tell me whether there is any, including OAG, did you find any link between these variances and the issues that are not accounted for, and the record which is at the IFMIS system, and the voidings which are normally done when the IFMIS system is being utilized to make payments with the controller budget giving the okay? All that, I think, I see there's a link in all that, and I need somebody to tell me what they think.
Okay, maybe we take all the questions. Senator Cherarke?
Chair, and that is why I insisted that this person, I think as a committee, we need to write to ISPAC to deal with this gentleman. Because what he has done here, what was the name? This prepared financial statements, I think Okundi. Now that he has been rewarded as a director, I think we have done before with other counties that if you prepare something that goes to adverse opinion, we can seek, we can write to ISPAC to be declared professional misconduct, and it happens. So, Chair, because looking at the response, even I want to believe in the assertion of Senator Sifuna that this letter was written by CCM when they realized they are appealing. Are you the same CC who was in Kajiado? Have you worked in Kajiado before? Or where were you before CCM Finance?
Chairman, yes, I was in Kajiado, but I was the director of revenue.
You are director of revenue?
Not finance.
Oh, not finance.
Yeah.
So my concern is, you know, there are responsibilities under Section 148 of accounting officers. One of it is some of preparation of financial statements. As the head of that department, and the governor has said that there is no administrative action that has been taken against this gentleman, because adverse opinion is the worst opinion you can get in preparation of financial aspects. So I think, Chair, on the, since the other gentleman is not a member, you can direct that the governor issued administrative action against the CEO, Kurare, and then the other gentleman who signed, because he has the onerous duty, and you have written numerous letters to ISPAC, and even ISPAC have agreed with us that any member who does a job that is below the par, they punish them for professional misconduct. So I think that will end this debate, Chair.
Yeah, I totally agree. Maybe just to respond to that. And clerks, we must bring a motion to the House, which you are calling the list of shame. And it will include all the professionals whose reports have been given a disclaimer or an adverse opinion. And the House must resolve that we recommend them to the professional body for sanctions. But secondly, there's an issue of a chief officer and a CEC. In these financial statements, there's a statement of management responsibility that is signed by a CEC member. And the chief officer also has certain fiduciary responsibility. What do we do with them? Where the chief officer was a teacher, chief officer finance, and then the financial statements get an adverse opinion. We as a Senate must move a motion to say that they are unfit to hold public office.
Chair,
that should be the list of shame.
Just for your information, Chair.
Senator Ledama.
That motion, Senator Sifuna and I were already working on that motion. You know, we're still working on that motion, and I think that motion is an advanced stage. We concluded on the motion on pending bills, and we're very grateful that that motion went through. So now, so that we don't lose, yes, thank you for that. Thank you for supporting us. So that we don't lose the query. Can we please go back to this query?
No, I was just responding to the views by Senator Chiradke, because we have resolved on that, and maybe just to bring you and the delegation to speed. Let's get to Senator Mariam Omar, then Senator Methu, then we get the governor to respond.
Chair, this query, I just categorize as negligence of the accounting officer.
The county, that the Narok County Treasury sought the help of the National Treasury to help clean up these things that are built up in the system. Now, I would want to know now from the auditor, what is the current situation? Because you've been there in the 2022-2023 audit. What would be the current situation? And also number two, now that this was a question of 2020-2021, there is another financial year of 2021-2022. We are already at the 2022-2023. There is 2023-2024. This letter was written in 2024. This is the third financial year since this was noted by the Auditor General. There is no comfort, Governor, that you can give that there was anything that was done in between this year in question and the financial year 2022-2023 when this letter was done in March. And I think the chairman has correctly put it that if the intent was not to beat this particular process, then the CC would have written soon as they assumed office. But I would want to get first from the Auditor General the purview of what would be the current situation in terms of this particular query.
Chair, the paragraph number 1 in both 2022 and the 2023 financial reports they still have paragraph on that, those variances between financial statements and IFMIS. So the problem is still not resolved.
Maybe going by what Senator Mariam Omar has raised, Governor, who in your establishment is paid a salary to make sure that these reconciliations are done? Who is that person? What's their job title? Have the mic on? Because there must be that one person whose job from morning to evening is to ensure that expenditure or reconciliations or entries are made in IFMIS. Who is that person?
Normally it's the director of IFMIS.
The director of
IFMIS.
So you have a director of IFMIS in the county?
Yes.
So why are you paying him a salary?
Why we are paying him a salary? Because he's doing his job and the treasury is not doing their job, Senator.
No, it cannot be. It is not the job of Treasury to enter.
You know,
Governor, I think you need to be a bit careful and maybe pause and reflect on your responses because you might take yourself into problems that you had not anticipated.
I apologize, sir.
There is somebody who is earning a salary as director of IFMIS. From 2013 to date, has not seen it fit to engage the National Treasury, only saw it fit to do so on 4th of March 2024. Please tell us why the people of Narok should continue paying that person a salary. Because the only evidence here is a letter of 4th of March. Was this the appointment date of that officer, or that officer has been around for longer?
Chair, when I came in, is when I did a lot of changes. So there was somebody who was there between 2013 to 2022 around October. So I did change to now a new person who is doing.
So you have a new director of IFMIS?
Correct.
Who assumed office in?
In around October, if I'm not wrong, October or November.
2022 or 2023?
2022.
And that director did not see it fit to engage the Treasury, only saw it fit to do so 2 months ago.
Chair, remember I told you when I came in, I realized that there were a number of issues, not just that, but others. And that is when I started asking them, we need to relook at the entire department on how we are working because it was not working for me. And that is when I changed the director, the CEO, the CC, and I did a number of, management and administrative changes. And therefore, it is a different person now, not the one that has been there.
Chair.
Senator Ledama?
I think what the governor is not telling this committee is that even after he made those changes, there have been constant duplication of requisition from the controller budget, which makes it very difficult to do what? To carry out the reconciliation. I've engaged the controller budget myself. The governor has been in touch with the controller budget, attempting to respond to the queries of duplication of requisition and the diversion of funds once the funds have been released by the exchequer. So it becomes very difficult, Mr. Chairman, for any of that to be reconciled, because the governor diverts funds. They requisition money to pay X, Y, and Z, they pay A, B, C. And that is a fact. This is, I've got letters here, which later on I'll be able to write a report and table to this committee, from the controller budget, where the controller budget has been very categorical. And said, I'll just read one paragraph. In view of the above observation, please provide a report showing how the approved amount of 104 million and 168 million have been utilized. A copy of the bank statement should be attached as evidence of the transactions made by the county treasury. So what happens is that they send a requisition to the controller budget to pay certain expenditures. They don't pay those expenditures. And then they send another requisition, a duplicate of what they had already sent before. So this is going to be very difficult to do a reconciliation.
Let me just chip in, and I've got some feedback from the National Treasury. Dr. Munyo is not here, but he's following the proceedings. And he has the following to say. Number one, reconciliation of financial statements is a required monthly exercise. And if followed strictly, there should be no discrepancy. And that's why I was asking whether there's someone you have employed to do the job. They are obviously sleeping on the job. Number two, the National Treasury has said, and I agree with them, and Governor, I think, were you at the National Treasury at some point? You were cast for?
I was cast for Interior and Labor.
Fine. The National Treasury is not mandated to do the day-to-day accounting work in Narok County government. And we agree with the National Treasury on that. Day-to-day accounting, the monthly reconciliation is your responsibility as a CEO and the persons that you have assigned that responsibility to. So this committee is not going to accept any blame directed to the National Treasury, especially where we are seeing the only effort that was made is dated 4th of March 2024.
Chair, I want to add on to what you're saying. Excellency Governor, how come every time you receive money from Treasury through IFMIS, the money comes? But when you need to do reconciliation through the IFMIS system, the system doesn't work. I find that difficult to accept.
Okay, before you respond, Senator Sifuna.
Governor, there is a very critical question that the chair asked you on why you continue to pay the people responsible for this shoddy work a salary. And your response was very interesting, that because they are working. And you have told us a story of how you got in and you changed the personnel there, maybe in recognition of the deficiencies in their capacity. Now, in that same letter, the letter of 4th March 2024, there is an admission that even the current person that you're saying is working well requires certain training from the National Treasury. If you look at the third paragraph there, you are requesting Treasury to facilitate training of our officers carrying out transactions through the IFMIS system. Isn't that an admission, Governor, that even after all those changes you've made, you still feel that there are capacity challenges in that department?
Governor, let's get your response.
Chair, on the issue of training, training is a continued exercise. And on this issue, look at the paragraph 2. I said the purpose of this letter is to request you to assign a technical officer to help in cleaning up the IFMIS system to allow us to proceed with the update of ledgers. Remember also, Chair, we are dealing with statements that are from the former governor or the former regime. So I'm just trying to answer a question that I have now on the table. So on the issue of IFMIS, I really want to be honest with the honorable senators. This is an issue that even you at your level, we need to look at this IFMIS issue, because there's nothing really, to be honest with you, these numbers will add up if the IFMIS was working properly. If we want us to, as Ledama was suggesting, that we provide a supporting schedule, we have those supporting schedules. And we have not shied away from bringing what this Honorable Senate needs to see. So that is my answer as far as this IFMIS is concerned. Maybe Treasury might write messages, but if you ask any governor, they will tell you that there is a problem with IFMIS, because we try to reconcile with our numbers, and even the Auditor General will agree with me that it's next to impossible. And let me just say this, because there is something that...
Governor, we have the benefit of looking at the reports of 46 other counties, including county assemblies, including funds. And in many instances, IFMIS is working. And so you cannot convince us that it is near impossible to get IFMIS to work. And let me illustrate. Look at the line, look at the row on fuel, oil, and lubricants. You have spent 246 million. In IFMIS, there is 0. Are you trying to tell me that those are historical data issues, where you have spent 246 million on financial statements? The Auditor General says they are supporting schedules. In the, I'm just referring to the table there.
Page 3.
On page 3, there's a row on fuel, oil, and lubricants. Governor, are you there? Yes, sir. So let's just take that as an illustration, because you do not want to deal with the problem, and the problem is your people. The problem is not Treasury and not IFMIS. So under fuel, oil, and lubricants, Auditor General, the 246 million, can you assure this Senate that the supporting schedules tie to the 246 million? The supporting schedules.
Chair, the supporting schedules, they agreed with the figures in the financial statement.
Good.
But
yes,
the source of that information was not from IFMIS. These are figures which are worked outside IFMIS, because IFMIS is so in need.
Auditor, help us. When you talk of supporting schedules, if it's fuel, oil, and lubricants, that is purchase of fuel. So you will be dealing with receipts and original accountability documents, isn't it?
Yes.
Or are you looking at an Excel spreadsheet? When you talk of supporting schedules, is it?
Ever paid? Because that's what I want the auditor to tell us. Was it receipt of delivery or receipt of payment? Because it will only appear in IFMIS if it was paid or if it was entered by the director of IFMIS. But at least if it was actually paid, it would be there on IFMIS.
Auditor General?
Chair, the financial statements are prepared under cash accounting, and every transaction is an actual transaction. There's a movement of cash, though there was a payment. There is a payment of 246.
So it was paid outside IFMIS?
Outside IFMIS.
Governor, the problem we have with you is that you're not whipping your team to do the right thing, and you're cooking up excuses on their behalf. I think that's, we understand the history and background, and the fact that you are not the governor then. But what we do not accept is the very, the very hands-off approach, or trying to excuse people who are being paid using public resources. Maybe let's hear from Senator Omtata, then we can agree on how to proceed.
I think, Chair, we are dealing with a classic case of where procurement is voided and then money is diverted. Because there's no way it cannot be in the IFMIS. Where is the approval by the Auditor General? By the control of budget. It goes into the IFMIS. So the procurement, if it was a valid procurement, then it would have been done within the IFMIS process. But I think we have a case whereby certain procurements were voided, and then the money was used on unbudgeted expenditure. Yes. And I think what we should be asking the governor is how many procurements were voided during the period under review. And you might find that those procurements tally with the amount of money, the mismatch in the IFMIS system. Because once the money is voided, then to spend outside the IFMIS, maybe they are not smart enough to go and cross-check what the IFMIS was providing for, and this is why the problem is. So, Chair, I think you need to ask the Auditor General if they looked at the question of voiding in the IFMIS system, how many procurements were voided, and where did that money for the voided procurement go? Did it remain in the county revenue account, or was it spent? And I'm suspecting that this is the money that was spent, because you see a lot of 0000 here. These are procurements that were done without prior approval of the control of budget. They were just done outside, they were totally outside the law. And that's why then when you go back to Article 229, Clause 6, you are auditing these people for lawfulness and value for money. You don't just audit for value for money. You must first of all audit and confirm that the procurement was lawful. Then now see whether there was value for money. But if you only ask audit for value for money, you end up with this kind of situation, whereby procurements are being made outside the law, and you are validating them by saying all we need, the only problem you have is balancing the figures. The problem is bigger. The problem is violation of the law. The Auditor General, the control of budget did not approve these procurements. That's why they are not in the IFMIS.
Okay. Senator Methu.
Honorable Chair, I find the statement that has been made by Senator Okoiti contradictory to what the Auditor General is saying. Because what I've heard from the Auditor General is that from the physical receipts, you can confirm that 246 million was used on oil and lubricants, nothing else. You know what Senator Okoiti is saying, that this money could be used to have bought something else.
Point of order, Chair.
Let's allow him to. Let's just allow him to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Finish.
Okay.
Senator Methu.
There's a reason why I was actually going to give you information. That's not what he said.
No. Let's allow Senator Methu to conclude.
Well, he's here. You confirm whether that is what he said or not. But the more substantive question, which I am sure and it must be addressed, why is it then very difficult to post these expenditures on the IFMIS, and does this